For those of you who don't know, I'm a recent mother, and I had a natural childbirth at home inside a birthing pool facing the ocean. And this experience was literally like an intense psychedelic trip. I mean, I had no drugs, there was no meds, there was nothing but me, my husband, the midwife, the doula, my will, and my imagination. And it was a magnificent experience and a triumphant one. And I know that I couldn't have done it without entering what felt like a distinct mystical experience. And in that space, connecting with and climbing into my true self, the aspect of me that was eternal and beyond death. Because every woman faces the fear of death when she goes through birth, whether she's aware of it or not. In order to face death, you have to find and resource strength in the part of you that is beyond death. And I'd only felt this kind of experience before, this kind of intensity. In the middle of my labor, once the intensity was peaking, I could actually feel myself at this edge of life, death, aliveness, this kind of quivering boundary. And I looked up at my husband, and I said, wide-eyed and point-blank, "This is just like DMT." And he just looked at me. Now, DMT is a very strong psychedelic. It's the strongest psychedelic known to man. And I've experienced it once before. And during that experience, I had, basically, after I inhaled the medicine, I rose to my feet and proclaimed, probably at the loudest utterance I've ever made in my life, a scream, an august cosmic yes that went on for like 2 minutes. Just yes, loudest I could scream. And in that yes, I was connecting. Yes, I was connecting myself to all yeses that had ever been uttered backwards and forwards in time by every yesing vehicle. And it was a really loud scream, and I was not attending to who was listening or who was hearing. I had no self-consciousness, no shame. I was guessing everything that ever happened or would have happened, emphatically and triumphantly. And in that moment, I felt like I was godding. I literally felt like it was a process, not a thing. And I felt invincible, but not proud of it. It was just what was so, like an aha, like this is who I really was, remember? It's like an ancient home I'd forgotten about. Now, this moment in DMT and during the birth was the most alive I'd ever been. And the quality of the feeling is something that I call ecstasy horror, ecstasy terror, you could say, which encompasses the full range of godhood. God includes all love, all fear, all beauty, all horror. And the feeling that I think most characterizes the true self that we're talking about is often one of this kind of intensity. And it's often can be described as this ecstasy terror, which is a form of true aliveness. Mystical experience often has this quality that's ecstasy terror, which encompasses the full range of all human experience, from the highest high to the lowest low. And so just to tie up, during DMT and birth, I felt the most alive, the most with my sensations. The intensity of my now took everything I had to stay with it, to not run. And this is similar to what people can experience during the mystical sexing, the true self-sexing that we're talking about today. As soon as I felt during these experiences the running instinct, fear encroaching, like I have to stop, I have to get out of this, I knew I wouldn't be able to hold my own. I would collapse. So I had to stay in the sensations and say yes to them, not retract from them. That was the only thing I knew I had to do. And the yes of me screaming is what was reminding my one now to the next now moment. It's like a message I was sending forward to the next now, an instruction of what to do. Say yes to whatever's happening in order to stay safe. So basically, during my birth, I made use of all kinds of technologies to be with the sensations and to not run from them and to stay in my now, to generate the strength to be with what was so. And at one point, I found myself experientially connected to all mothers that had ever given birth and who would ever give birth in the future. All mothers, animal, human, every form, from rodent to chimpanzee. We were all one in this process of birthing. I was joining this ancient cult of motherhood, and I needed to feel myself situated in the all to remember who I was, my true self, my essence, the one that could never die. And that's what gave me courage. Once I wasn't separate and alone and I was tuning into this godhood, I knew I could do anything.